Detroit is at Kansas City, and I got stats coming out the wazoo for this.
Juice! Forgot something.
Okay. You got it? You're good now?
You ready?
Yeah.
Nah.
That's right, Dave. I'm sorry. I forgot about that.
Dare you? And there you go. Another apology, Heath. We need to have the apologyometer for Adam this year.
Yeah, we need
We're up to like 4 on today's episode alone.
Yeah.
He's going to forget soon and turn back into a terrible person.
Yeah. I apologize in advance for that. All right. In 8 games in which the Lions allowed 28 or more points in 2022, Jared Goff averaged 36.8 pass attempts per game. So, I think the Chiefs were projected for around 28 points. I don't know if it's still that way. That was before the Kelce news, but probably should expect a lot of pass attempts for him. Is this a Jahmyr Gibbs game? I mean, obviously everyone's going to start him, but the Chiefs have now 5 straight years they've allowed the 5th most receiving yards to running backs or more. They've been top 5 in that, or bottom 5. Like I said, however you want to look at it. I mentioned that a couple of days ago. 5 straight years where they've been terrible against pass catching running backs. All right. Anyway, Jamie, set up this game for me from a start sit perspective, and then Dave and Heath, you guys can debate whatever you want to debate.
I think the Lions have 3.5 must start players, both running backs and Amon-Ra St. Brown. And then Jared Goff, if you need him, could be a starting quarterback this week because of the potential for a shootout. It's the highest over-under, at least as of now, for the week, assuming that Travis Kelce is playing. That'll probably go down a little bit if Kelce is out. But expect a shootout. Expect the Lions to be, playing from behind. And, hopefully we get somebody else stepping up. Your Josh Reynolds call might come into play here. And, maybe Marvin Jones. But I would love it to be a lot of the stars. And maybe Sam Laporta, he should also be in the conversation for the streaming tight ends also. Yep. Just given, again, the shootout potential there. So he's a top 15 tight end for me as well, in the same range as Gerald Everett. But for the Chiefs, the biggest question is, what do you do with their receivers? I think Pacheco's worth starting. I think he's going to have an opportunity to play well here too. But the receivers, it's, I think you start Sky Moore and then kind of mix and match depending on what your needs are if you have to go a little bit deeper in some deeper formats. So I don't know if I'd want to trust Kadarius Toney this week just because of the lack of playing time in practice. I think, as we talked about yesterday, that he could be active but not really a full participant. MVS shot call, you can get one of those. They're better DFS plays, I think, for the Chiefs receivers than they are for redraft leagues. So Sky Moore, I think, should be at least a 3rd receiver in a 3 receiver leagues, and then obviously you're playing Mahomes and Kelce if they're out there. If Kelce's out there.
And just before Dave and Heath jump in, when you talk about these receivers, you're giving us this advice as if Kelce's not going to play.
I would start Sky Moore as at least a 3rd receiver no matter what. Just with the opportunity to, again, be in a high scoring game. The snap count from the preseason I think matters here. And we'll see. I think the targets and opportunities that we're missing in the preseason, as you alluded to. You're happy that he's running routes. You're happy that he's out there, but we just haven't seen anything to sort of attach it to. But until I see a full Kadarius Toney, I'm going to bank on Sky Moore getting those opportunities, and hopefully that comes to fruition this week.
So Jamie mentioned that there's 3.5 players that he would start on the Lions. I think there's only 1.5 for the Chiefs if there's no Kelce. Mahomes is obvious, and I think Pacheco is where you lean if you're looking for that half player, that second player. I like him better in non-PPR than full PPR. A little bit nervous about how much work he's going to get just because he's barely practiced. He's barely taken on any contact. This could be the get your feet wet type game for him coming back from the torn labrum. And I wonder if Jerick McKinnon actually ends up making an impact if Kelce does not play. Reliable short area target that Mahomes has leaned on in clutch games before. I'm nervous about Sky Moore. I think if you drafted him, you probably have 3 other receivers that you could use ahead of him this week. So I don't have him in my top 36. I love having him on my fantasy team. And I want to have Toney on my fantasy team too. But these are guys I'm just not ready to trust. And I don't think I have to trust them in regular redraft leagues because I've drafted other players who are a little bit better than them.
I think there's lots of interesting things to learn from this game. That Gibbs-Montgomery role, Adam, you asked if this was the Gibbs game because of the pass catching. Is that the way that the touches are distributed? Or do we get a series of David Montgomery and a series of Jahmyr Gibbs? Or because it's week 1, do we get 2 series of David Montgomery and 1 series of Jahmyr Gibbs? So I'm interested to see that. I'd like to see if Sky Moore can actually do something with his snaps. For me, like, you're obviously starting Mahomes. I'm starting obviously ARSB. David Montgomery and Gibbs are both number 2 running backs. I would start Goff over at least a handful of quarterbacks that you drafted before him, but Anthony Richardson, Deshaun Watson, those guys for sure. And then everybody else is pretty much a flex. I would flex Sky over Pacheco. I do wonder if, like, the DFS play is Clyde, because of what Dave said about how little contact Pacheco took in the preseason, and because I think we'll see more running back targets if there's no Kelce. I will say I went back and looked. The game that Kelce missed in 2021, now Tyreek was still there, so it's a different equation, but the Chiefs tight ends as a group combined for 3 catches for 21 yards. Yeah. So I think there's enough tight ends out there to stream that I'm probably just staying away from Noah Gray.
Okay, so if Gibbs is the highest ranked running back in this game, how do you rank Montgomery?
He is not for me.
Oh, he's not. Montgomery
then Gibbs.
Okay.
I'll take Gibbs.
I have them back to back, just in both inside top 15.
All right.
Gibbs, Montgomery, Pacheco.
Gibbs, Montgomery, Pacheco.
That's how I have it.
Okay. All right, what about McKinnon, though? I mean, especially if Kelce doesn't play.
We've talked about him as kind of a break glass if you need him early in the year. And I think if Kelce doesn't play, then they probably need him. I think if there's no Kelce, I would probably put McKinnon ahead of Pacheco.
In all formats or just PPR?
Just PPR.
PPR.
One thing to keep in mind, a couple things about these running backs. Okay, the Chiefs saw the fewest running back carries in the NFL last year in terms of, their opponents. So I don't know if that hurts Montgomery. I mean, maybe that won't be the case.
Well, Chris Jones not being there is huge.
That's true. Okay, that's true. Fair. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the point is they were just scoring so much. But yes, okay, Chris Jones, that's a bigger factor. Now on the other side of the ball, I don't know if you guys, I'm sure you remember, but I don't know if everybody else out there remembers. The Lions used to be, along with the Texans, the laughingstock in terms of run defenses. I mean, the Texans have 3 years in a row. They've been one of the 3 worst run defenses in football in terms of fantasy points allowed to running backs. That was basically the Lions until the midway point of last season. And in the last, 8 games of the year? No, last 10 games of the year, 3 running backs scored double-digit fantasy points in PPR against the Detroit Lions. And only one of them, Deontay Foreman, scored more than 12.5. Their run defense got pretty nasty late in the year. It was just a huge shock and a huge turnaround. So that's just something to keep in mind. Would you guys start Courtland Sutton over Sky Moore this week? We don't know if Judy's out. So you have to answer that now, I guess.
Yes.
I'll start Sutton.
Michael Thomas or Sky Moore?
Thomas.
I
think as long as Thomas is healthy, you should be starting him until something shows you otherwise.
Would you start David Montgomery over Dameon Pierce facing the Ravens?
Yes.
I would. Yeah.
I believe I have it ranked that way.
Okay. All right. How about we'll do some more Goff. Goff, you said Heath over Watson and Richardson. Dave, Jamie, you guys agree?
Yes. Definitely over Richardson. Not sure on Watson.
I've got Tua, Dak, Goff, Watson, Cousins, and then way down Richardson.
And Goff over Daniel Jones this week?
Definitely.
Yes, Goff over Watson for me too.
Okay, and is Sam Laporta checking in the top 15 this week, or?
Yes.
Yeah, Jamie said he might be just a shade outside of that for me. I've got him 17th.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Heath.
I'm a little lower on the rookie tight ends for week 1, so I don't have Laporta as a start.
I would start Laporta over Kincaid this week.
Oh, yeah.
I'll take Kincaid.
Although the Jets really, if they had a vulnerability last year, it was the tight end. I'm going to try something different here. How about this? I'm going to try new segment. Plant your flag. Plant
your weekly flag.
I would
take that, Chris. You didn't think of that one, huh?
I would love to find a league where I could start Josh Reynolds just for fun, like a 16-team league.
It's called DFS.
I'm starting him in one league where I have to start 5 receivers, and I'm probably not going to have Romeo Doubs.
Yeah.
So I had a tough decision to make because it's a dynasty league where I picked up Noah Gray just to see, in case obviously Kelsey's missing multiple weeks. And I was like, do I drop Josh Reynolds? I'm like, no, I actually got to play Josh Reynolds this week.
Yeah, baby. Josh Reynolds had 5 games last year with 6 or more targets. He scored 15 or more PPR points in 5 of those 6 games. I just told you Jared Goff throws a lot, even when they don't give up a ton of points. But when they do, he throws a lot. So look, it's a flyer thing, but it's just for fun. You heard it here first. I think that's it.
Guy.
What's that?
That's your guy.
For 6 games.
Do you like either of these DSTs?
No.
Neither do I.
Man, we might have to do that 6 games comment kind of bothered me. Like we might have to do a bet the first 4 games after Jameson Williams is eligible. I think I'd still take Josh Reynolds.
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me if he's on the most added list, and then dropped, and then added, and then dropped, and then added. But it's him and Marvin Jones basically, and Marvin Jones is 34 or something.
Yeah.
So